Welcome back to our video on trigonometry, which is a continuation from our previous or last posted video. In question 4 of the Free State March test paper. So we're going to be finishing up in question 4.2 and possibly 4.3, which are basically looking like this. Okay. So in question 4.2, I'll have to choose red is fine. So in question 4.2, we are looking at simplifying, which is basically a reduction formulae type of question. You say simplify sine squared 90 plus alpha plus sine 180 plus alpha times sine negative alpha all over sine 180 minus tan 135. Okay, so there's something I want to do here before we start with this question that I like to do first. I call it the toolbox. Now, if I can lift this up, since we have the question already, to do the toolbox. Now in the toolbox, I first look at what reductions are we having here in this question. For example, we've got 90 plus an angle, 180 plus an angle, and minus an angle. We've got an angle that is found in the second quadrant, 135 and 180. So I like to include those in here. First up, where do we find 90 plus an angle? 90 plus an angle is here in the second quadrant, 90 plus an angle. And also we find 180 plus an angle in the third quadrant, and then negative angles are in the fourth quadrant. So this is first, second, third, and fourth, where all students take coffee. Now, in this quadrant, we also find 180 minus an angle. How is that going to help us? First things first, also, we need to identify that this is a cofunction. This is reduction formulae or negative angles. This is just sine 180, which can be simplified, and sine 135 has to be taken into account before you delve into everything in here. Now, let's work out what we need to do. To solve this, we would first have to change our sine squared 90 into a proper looking or workable simplified version, which I like to say, you start by saying it's sine of 90 plus an angle that is being squared instead of sine squared 90. And then if we can look at sine 180 plus an angle, 180 plus an angle is found in the third quadrant, and in the third quadrant, that is where tan is leading, or it's its home, if I can call it, as you can see in our toolbox here. This is the home for tan, which means tan is positive. Therefore, sine is a negative sine of the angle alpha, being multiplied by sine of a negative angle is the same as negative sine of that angle. Now please note that I am not calling this one alpha or beta, so I'm calling it that angle because that angle can be k, z, alpha, beta, and theta. So I'm calling it that angle, if you have noticed. And then now if we calculate the sum or evaluate what is sine of 180, sine of 180 gives us a 0. Now this is minus tan of 135. Any angle that is above 90 and is not acute has to be reduced, mostly in trigonometry. So this question can be solved by someone in grade 11 and grade 12. Then this means that we have to use what's in the second quadrant, which is our reduction formula for 180 degrees minus 45. Degrees. Now, this then gives us so if you're looking at the cofunctions, the complementary trig ratio for sin is cos, right? It's cos of the angle alpha. Now, in the quadrant for 90 plus an angle, which is the quadrant 2, what is the sign for the sin trig ratio? The sign for sin trig ratio is a positive one, and therefore this is positive cos of alpha, that is squared. And then we are going to add it with negative sine alpha times negative sine alpha. We get a positive sine alpha squared all over, well, 0 just is 0, and then minus, now tan of 180 minus 45. 180 minus 45 is found in the second quadrant, and therefore this means that tan is negative in the second quadrant. So this will be negative tan of 45. Now, if we simplify this one, this becomes a cos squared alpha. So we can take it back because now we cannot further simplify it. Plus sine squared alpha all over minus. Now, if we calculate, or if you go to your special angles, you find that tan 45 is equal to a 1. So this is negative 1. Now, if you take this one down, there is an identity that you must have learned in grade 11 that says sine squared alpha, or sine squared an angle plus cos squared of that same angle is equal to a 1. So basically a cos squared alpha plus sine squared alpha is equal to a 1 over a positive 1. Then this is equal to 1. And that's how we solve